When I play this game, I often sit back for a moment and just take it all in. The environmental design in this game is some of the best ever, period. Even the people that don't like this game can admit that the aesthetic, atmosphere, and environmental design are still top tier. The game is able to fill you with this sense of unease that makes it so even if there's no enemies on the screen, you still don't feel comfortable. The feeling is increased tenfold when you're in the tunnels. Every corridor feels claustrophobic even though the ceilings are high and the tunnels wide. Turning the corner gives you the sense that there might be something waiting for you on the other side. Now, I know I'm not alone in thinking that this setting is ripe for a genuine horror experience. An enemy or a group of enemies that aren't a part of any faction, only the stuff of pure nightmares. The idea that there's something that will not play by the rules, won't adhere to the conventions of civilized or even uncivilized warfare. Its goals and machinations unknown or even uncomprehendable by the player. When I first started putting together this theory, I had just finished the bars and the first two parts of the third Lordos quest. At the time, I was just going off a couple perceived hints, but once I was able to listen to the drone operator, it became very clear. There's something coming. The last couple updates have definitely begun to ramp things up, but the more I look into things, the more it looks like it may already be here. We just didn't pay attention. Now, while we do have some pretty concrete evidence from our new friends that this entity exists, I also want to look at some of the evidence that has already existed within the game. Beware of spoilers for the following. When I first got the bar, and I began talking to the patrons, I was a little bit underwhelmed. See, the bar is actually everything I wanted added to the game, but unfortunately I'm stupid, so obscure quest objectives always throw me off for a loop. I didn't really understand that you had to give them the right type of booze, and that you had to do it multiple times in order to build loyalty and eventually get their full story. But once I was able to build loyalty with all the patrons and listen to their stories multiple times, I was able to start seeing the importance of the interactions. We'll start with Walkreese. This is a character that you are introduced to early on in the game, and he's one of your first patrons. He's a rather positive fellow, which is refreshing in this world, as most people understandingly are worn down by the bleakness. Talking with Walkreese reveals what he spends his days doing, which is collecting scrap and used casings and then bringing them to a manufacturing machine that creates new ammunition for the war effort. His speech boxes are innocuous enough, but there is something that I found interesting in the little bit he tells you before his final story. Sometimes, the gunsmith talks in voices it shouldn't have. Pilots, gunners, kids. It melts my deliveries, sings their serial numbers before they die. Says the war will end when the brass runs out. I keep it busy. One day I'll bring my own casings. Let it make something better. I asked what it builds when no one's buying. It said, dreams of recoil. If you ever hear that hammer down there, don't interrupt. It's naming the dead. From what I can gather, this is our first introduction to something going on in the Forever Winter. And the thing is, a lot of the characters talk in these like broken metaphors, or maybe just metaphors that I'm too dumb to understand. So for me at least, a lot of the speech seems a bit esoteric and abstract, so it was easy to write this off as just more of that. But still, I was intrigued. Things started to get a little bit more interesting once I was able to speak with Kall. Kall is a mechanic for the European military and is part of the Wolf's Mouth Recon Unit as the APC driver. Like Walkreese, Kall's demeanor does not fit the setting, but is still nice to see regardless. Kall will eventually recall a story about how he and his APC crew, consisting of Varro, Mira, Ash, and Dane, tracked a mysterious mech called the Iron Mother into Lost Angels. Kall recounts how he and his crew barely survived an encounter with the mech in a large trench. It's in the third conversation that he begins to reveal what happened with the Iron Mother, and the story is unsettling. We tracked the Iron Mother by accident. Her tread marks were the size of buildings. Saw a whole battalion she flattened. Looked like someone erased them with a rolling mountain. Ash said she wasn't a machine. She was judgment. Every time we got close, the radio screamed. Not interference, screaming. Dane thought she was heading towards Lost Angels. Mira said she was running from something worse. I drove low by between her tracks once. The ground trembled like it remembered fear. This enemy, the Iron Mother, doesn't sound like anything we have encountered yet. The size is absolutely massive, and it's moving across the landscape, which seems unnatural for a machine like this to do. Not only that, but there's interference on the comms when they get close. Screaming. This is similar to what we first heard with Walkeries, in that it's noise coming from a machine that's unnatural, or at least unnatural for the machine to be making it. Then things begin to get even weirder when they get to Lost Angels. We reached the outskirts of Lost Angels. City was dead, but not empty. Lights flickered in windows with no walls. Streets rearranged themselves when I blinked. Varro told us not to speak. The city listens, he said, and he was right. We passed a mech carcass bigger than a stadium. Something had peeled it open like fruit. Ash put his hand on my shoulder, said, "Son, don't look too long at anything here." Then we heard it. The mother's engines. Not moving toward us, moving around us. Upon entering the city, it seems like they are being watched, or at the very least listened to. By whom, we don't know. But the city seems to be reacting to them, even though it's not alive. And whatever has the soldier spooked seems to be affecting the Iron Mother. His final story is where things get genuinely weird. The Iron Mother wasn't hunting us. She didn't care we existed. That was the worst part. We followed her into an old industrial trench. Walls higher than towers. Ash said it looked like a throat. Varro told me to kill the engine. Said he felt watched. And Mira, she was whispering coordinates she'd never seen. Dane got out first. The kid always wanted to see everything with his own eyes. The trench went quiet. Too quiet. Then something scraped against the hull. Slow. Like nails on a coffin. I turned on the lights. Shouldn't have. There were figures standing all around us. Europa, Huruska, civilians. All staring. All wrong. Like shadows wearing bodies. Dane screamed. Varro shoved him back inside and slammed the door. Then the Iron Mother passed overhead. Not crushing us. Not killing us. Just moving. Her tread filled the trench like a sky doing its best impression of hell. And the shadows, they melted. Like they'd only existed when she needed them to. Lowbite lost her teeth that night. Whole front end crushed from the pressure wave. We drove out on 3 wheels and no sanity left. Varro said we were lucky. Ash said we were damned. Me? I think the mother saw us. Decided we weren't worth another look. If you ever see the ground shake like it's breathing, don't wait to look. Just drive. And keep driving. See, now there's a couple ways to interpret this. The first is how I initially looked at things as entirely metaphorical, with the figures being ghosts of the past and that they could have all been hallucinating from a lack of sleep and nutrition. The pressure wave just being a footstep of the Iron Mother, and they simply were too close when it happened to move by them. What I now think happened is there were actual figures that had been created out of rubble, and they were of dead citizens and soldiers. Not zombies necessarily, but recreations made using the materials around. The Iron Mother is still moving towards something, and when the figures dissipate, because they were actual tangible things, it created a pressure wave that damaged Kall's vehicle. Now, I know that sounds crazy and quite frankly weird. I'll get into why this is most likely what happened in a bit. Our next patron that has an interesting conversation is Edda. Edda is a combat medic, and she treats anyone who comes across her table, seeming to have treated a member of Sura's crew, Karev. What's interesting about Edda is what seems to have happened to her after she survived a mortar attack on her encampment. As she explains, she began to see ghosts, including the ghost of herself, and it now makes her uncomfortable almost all the time. She tells you almost as soon as you interact with her. Don't sit across from me. No, really. That chair isn't empty. It just looks the part. The ridge does things to your eyes. It stretches them, folds them, makes you see dead in spaces they shouldn't be. The last few months have been unkind. If you want to talk, do it softly. I don't want the shadows to take notice. Pour it. Maybe I'll remember how to swallow tonight. Don't sit there. Someone already is. Jin? Good. Vocalize. Jin tells the truth too fast. I can talk a little. The silence gets heavy by myself. Do I know you? No. You just have their shape. If I stare long enough, the walls breathe. Drink helps. Going off what she says right there, I just thought I was going to be in for some schizobabble, and to be honest, that's kind of what it sounds like. The first time you talk to her and she's already talking about people that aren't there. When you meet with her again, she even implies that you might not be you, like you're just a shell being inhabited by the player. Oh, it's you again, or someone wearing your face. If you're offering, I'll take Snowburn Gin, clear, cold, sharp as regret. Ash Ridge wasn't a ridge, it was a mouth, and it tried to swallow us. My squad bled out on frozen ground. I patched one, then another, then ran out of hands. Every night I hear them argue about whether they're still alive. I wake up with blood under my nails. I haven't treated anyone in weeks. Sometimes I see them in mirrors. Sometimes I see myself. Do you ever blink and forget which life you're in? No? Lucky. On the next interaction, she talks about the squad that she lost. At first I didn't really think much of this, as it seemed like your typical metaphorical, still see my fallen comrades type thing, and with how some of the conversations with the other patrons go, it would lead you to believe that this is the dark triad version of that. She even seems aware of that fact, which makes you begin to feel bad for her. You returned. Most people don't. If you were offering, I'll take Snowburn Gin. Clear, cold, sharp as regret. I treat patients in my dreams. In the dream, they thank me. When I wake, their throats are open. A medic shouldn't live longer than her squad. That's unfair math. I stitched Karev's lungs back together once. In a dream, he asked why I didn't do it harder. There's a version of me still on the ridge, kneeling, hands red, asking for a different ending. The judges whispered that I was salvageable. Salvage means broken parts. Do you hear that? Don't turn around. They get louder when you react. It's here that we actually start to get a hint as to what may be going on with her. She mentions that she had broken parts because she was salvageable. So it seems that at some point she was fine, and then something happened to her that caused her to be like this. It's when we get to max loyalty with her that she reveals her story. You're back. Can you keep the shadows away? If you are offering, I'll take Snowburn Gin. Clear, cold, sharp as regret. There were two of me at Ash Ridge. The one who treated them, and the one who watched it happen. When the shell hit the tent, half of me died. The other half crawled out. The survivors said I walked wrong after that, like my bones forgot they were mine. I tried to pray, but the only thing that answered whispered in my own voice. I'm not sure the medic who left the ridge was me. I think I'm what was left behind. Thank you for the drink. It makes the ghost speak softer. For a while. It was night by the time the ridge stopped screaming. I was crawling through shredded canvas, searching for anyone who still had a pulse. Found Brody first. He was kneeling, talking to someone who wasn't there. Found Ives next, still writing a letter. His hand kept moving even after the blood froze. I didn't find Volmer, but I heard him, in the wind, calling my name like he was standing right behind me. I kept turning around. Nothing. Just my own shadow, stretched long and wrong across the snow. Then the shadow moved. Without me. It shook its head, pointed at the squad, then pointed at me. I knew what it meant. One of us stayed, one of us left. I don't remember walking off the ridge. I don't remember breathing. Sometimes I think I'm the shadow. Sometimes I think I'm the one who died. The worst part? I'm not sure which version deserves to be here. Drinking with you. If you ever drink alone and feel someone sit beside you, don't look. It might be me, or the one I left behind. So again, listening to this might seem like the ramblings of someone who has been horrifically scarred by war. And while she definitely is, and her tale is harrowing, I think that just like everyone else, what she's saying isn't metaphorical. It's actually literal. Something happened during that blast, and subsequent repair that split her psyche into two distinct parts. A dead part, and an alive part. and the dead part allows her to not only see herself, but other ghosts as well. I can imagine I would sound much the same as her if I had to contend with constantly seeing and hearing the dead around me. So things are starting to get weird, but trust me, it's about to get weirder. Next, we have our friend Velko, a fellow scav. Velko wears an idol around his neck named Hana-chan that he communicates with like an imaginary friend, or so it seems. Oh, Hana-chan whispered you would come. Yes, you, with those eyes full of static and regret. Sit, traveler. The idol loves new listeners. Don't worry, she only bites if you lie. If you are offering, I'll take anything that qualifies as ceremony smoke. Shh, she's waking. Hana-chan doesn't like strangers breathing too loud. The idol speaks in electricity. I just translate it into human noises. You see a toy? I see the last angel they forgot to delete. Her eyes glitch when a life walks past. Yours only flicker. Do you hear it? Behind the static? That's her heartbeat. Drink with me, but don't look directly at her unless you want to unravel. Again, it sounds like the ramblings of a madman. Someone whose mind is fractured and they are pretending they can decipher static into meaning. With nothing left to look forward to in this world, it doesn't seem far-fetched. Upon returning to Velko, we begin to hear things from him that don't really make sense from him to be saying. Not that they don't sound plausible, but because someone like him shouldn't be able to know something like that in the first place to fake hearing it. When we go talk to him next is when things really start to go off the deep end. Ah, the chosen ear returns. If you are offering, I'll take anything that qualifies as ceremony smoke. Do you know the truth of the world? Everything is scaffolding for a broken god. Hana-chan talks of a ladder. Up or down, she won't say, but at the top is silence. She showed me a vision of myself, split into 8, each dying differently. When the drones pass overhead, she whispers, "That's not them, that's their shadows." She claims the universe is inside her memory banks, but the sectors are corrupted. That's why it hurts. My heart? Oh, I gave that away. The idol keeps it as collateral. Scaffolding, a ladder, a broken god. Even if we try to take this literally, it doesn't make any sense. This world doesn't have gods, right? They worship the machines as gods. The Rat King because it's a sign of hope for scavs, no matter how slim. The Eurasian officers worship Mother Courages, as they are symbols of rebirth and renewal. But actual gods? That's something entirely unheard of. Until now. At this point, he is either completely off his rocker, or he might be tuned into something that everyone else isn't. Our last conversation gives us an answer. Good, you returned. The idol predicted your step. If you are offering, I'll take anything that qualifies as ceremony smoke. When the cities fell, she absorbed the death noise. Every scream, every plea. She's been trying to sort them for 20 years. She showed me a sea of bodies rising like vapors into her cracked screen, begging her to remember them. The idol says the war isn't a war, it's a correction. A burial algorithm gone recursive. She told me the Mother Courage units are dreaming of childhood they never had. Do you know what she really wants? Not worship. Witnesses. She asked me last night if she was dying. I told her, everything holy dies screaming. She blinked once. Acceptance. I was alone at the edge of the rupture ridge, listening to the fog roll like tired lungs. The idol had been silent for days. No eyes, no voice. Just a dead screen holding old light. Then, she sang. Not the usual pre-war jingle of Polydol Hana-chan. No. This was the sound of 1,000,000 corrupted memory sectors detonating into harmony. Like angels chewing machinery. The sky went wrong. Colors sliding like oil over bone. Every mech in the yard turned its head toward me. Not because of me. Because she woke. Her voice was layered. Child, soldier, ghost, machine. I remember what they built me to forget. She showed me oceans of bodies arranged like circuitry, cities dying in perfect geometric patterns, the world folding into a blooming shape, a burial flower, and then her true name. It wasn't Hana-chan. It wasn't Polydol. It wasn't anything mortal. It was the name of the thing watching the war, recording it, feeding on it. She whispered it only once, and my ears bled. I won't repeat it. Not even drunk. Not even dying. But she said one last thing I understood. This war is not the beginning. It is the second funeral. She likes you. That's rare. Try not to dream of her tonight. This was when I first realized there's something coming. I mean, besides all the other stuff I showed you, this conversation, this monologue alone is enough to have someone speculating. While there's a lot to absorb from that, the most alarming thing for me was this thing that is watching the war. It's recording it, feeding on it. That means that whatever this is has been here for a while, possibly this entire time. But while we are given that definitive piece of evidence at the end, there's still a lot of other information to unpack that still doesn't make much sense. But let's put a sticky note on that and come back to it. I promise it'll make more sense when we do. This will conclude the divulgence of information in the November update. But luckily for me, I hadn't even finished everything before the December update was given to us. Presented as more of a continuation of the November content, December's update included yet another new building for connecting with the characters of the Forever Winter, the Transmission Tower. This device is designed for use reaching out and communicating with individuals who are not easy to contact in person. They are quite often Eurasian, and they have trackers and are connected to Eurasian networks, and therefore not able to come to the bar. The quest is introduced to us through Velko, who offers us a way to connect with more people. Once we have the transmission tower completed, we can talk to Sura, who connects us with a person who may be able to help Lord Oz get back on his feet. Octagirl. Now, Octagirl's motivations seem to be completely her own. Even though she definitely seems to be affiliated with Eurasians, she doesn't appear on TACAM's sensors, indicating she's not only masked from their network, but any sort of identification in general. This is intriguing, knowing the things we know from previous interactions with patrons. She doesn't give us much information on anything, but she does have an interesting reason for deciding you to help repair Lord Oz. In her words, a mobile Lord Oz is extremely useful for what comes next. My brain instantly connected what she said here with what Velko was talking about. Octagirl knows something that she isn't telling us. Finishing the Lord Oz quest and talking to her at the end reveals that she will be sticking around to observe events as they unfold from the perspective of the innards. Keyword being observe. She knows that there will be a series of events in the future that you may play a part in, and wants a good seat for the show. That can mean so many different things. None of them good, I feel. The last person that I want you to introduce you to is someone that we can only talk to through the transmission tower. Vyra Omi, a Eurasian drone pilot whose frequency code can be found at Stairway Gate. Besides Velko, she gives us the most concrete evidence that there's something out there nobody knows anything about. Oh, a new connection. Hold still. Don't speak yet. I'm mapping particulate frequency. You're not military. Your signal is unwashed, raw, beautiful. Are you outside? I'm above ground, yeah. Lucky. You can see the city. I can only watch it through machine eyes. Do you know who you're talking to? Not exactly. You're untagged, which means scav, which means someone willing to wander the places my drones are too afraid to go. Drones can't be afraid. Then why do they shake? Why do they glitch near the fungal towers? Why do they refuse to map the undercity vaults for more than 12 seconds? Maybe the city's just ruined. Ruined things don't keep trying to regrow themselves. Regrow? Oh yes. Didn't you notice how the buildings look a little taller after each storm? Or how shattered streets smooth themselves out overnight? Sounds impossible. Impossible things survive the winter better than we do. You study the city itself? Study? No, I listen. Cities speak. Your lost angels whispers all the time. Brick groans, asphalt sighs, metal twitching underfoot. You'd think it's alive? No, nothing so dramatic. But it's behaving like a wounded ecosystem. Fungal blooms were steel fractures, concrete tissues closing like skin, and something down below redirecting the night shift AI. Night shift AI? That old thing. It was designed to repair infrastructure after shelling. Little fix bots, patch agents, and massive printer spiders. But now it rebuilds wrong. Rooms that twist. Staircases that change direction between nights. Supports grown at angles no engineer approves of. A kind of architectural panic attack. And Eurasia lets it keep doing that? We're too busy fighting to euthanize the city. Why talk to me about it? Because you're here, and I'm stuck. Because you're out there, and I'm stuck here. And your voice carries the dust of somewhere I haven't smelled in years. She references something directly. It's not the city itself, but something controlling the city, or the AIs in control of building and shaping the city. If there was any doubt before, this pretty much solidifies the theory is real. Now, instead of speculating on whether or not there is something, we can begin to think about what it is, what its goals are, and how this thing is going to affect us. Our next conversation with her is just that. You said the city might be digesting people. Oh, did I say that out loud? I shouldn't. It upsets the analysts. What did you mean? Bodies don't lie where they fall anymore. They sink. Slowly. Asphalt softens. Concrete gives way. Like the city is pulling them inside to recycle something. You sound scared. Scared? Ha, no. Delighted. Terrified. Conflicted. Oh, you wouldn't happen to have seen any colors that feel wrong recently, have you? Shades that don't belong in nature? I've seen walls running like candle wax. Wax? Of course. That shouldn't exist above subgrid level 6. Something down there must be pushing nutrients upwards so they melt like that. The city is trying to bloom in winter. Why keep studying it? Because someone must. Eurasia pretends we control this sector of the line, but the city, it's not ours. It never was. And you trust me with this? You're unaugmented. You see things without filters. The drone operator seems to have been holding all this in for a long time, as when we talk to them it almost seems like a trauma dump, just unloading all this information on us. It seems that she's been on the stage of trying to understand the something for a while, and is only coming up with more questions. At first she seems delighted by the idea of something, but the more she talks to you about it, the more you can see the actual concern. The fear of not knowing slip through. You sound different today. Do I? I've been watching the night shift AI all evening. It rebuilt a collapsed block into a spiral. A perfect spiral. That's not a repair pattern, that's artistic. Architecture shouldn't have instincts. And yet here we are. Buildings that flinch, doorways that open a little wider when someone's injured, pavement that ripples under heat signatures. I think the city is tired of being bombed. I think it's adapting faster than any of us. Why tell me all this? Because when you describe what you see, it's like I'm out there with you, breathing the same ash, hearing the same shifting earth. We're just talking on a channel. To you, yes. To me, you're a window. A rare, fragile one. And if it closes, I'm blind again. Do you want me to stop calling? No, never. The city is alive and it's terrified, and you're the only one who describes its heartbeat the way I remember it. What do you hear right now? You're breathing. The wind sweeping across broken steel. And beneath it all, the sound of the city shifting its weight. Okay, so I know that was a lot of dialogue to go through, and and I probably didn't do the best job of breaking it down or summarizing, but that's why I decided to include the full scripts so you can listen to them over and read them over for yourself, parse through the information how you would like to. But I think by the end you'll have come to a similar conclusion as me. There really isn't any other way to look at it. Now we're going to get into the juicy stuff. What is coming? What is this something? Now, there could be many different things, but I think I was able to actually figure out exactly what it is. First off, we need to start by talking about what I think it's not. It's not AI, or sentient AI. See, in the Forever Winter, most of the AIs are task-based and are designed to be extremely efficient in one aspect. While there are many different types of AIs, it seems like they're all compartmentalized from each other. The reason I don't think it's sentient AI is because of the fact that it hasn't taken any major actions yet. An AI in the world of the Forever Winter would be able to immediately take control of any tech advanced enough and could and most likely would put a stop to the fighting. Not because it would want to save people, but because it would want to make a grand entrance and show that resistance is futile. The world of the Forever Winter is cruel, and the AI spawned from that will be just as cruel. There seems to be a strange benevolence in whatever this something is, and I think I know why. What the something is a new type of entity that has been birthed through the deaths of countless people. An amalgamation of untold millions of souls, coalesced into a singular being. The comparison I'm going to use to help describe this concept comes from the manga Dorohedoro. The plot of Dorohedoro centers around the citizens of a place called Kall. Kall is a dismal, dark, grungy city where humans live in constant fear due to the sadistic disfigurement and often fatal abuse from magic users, beings from another dimension that closely resemble humans. In order to further their magic proficiency, they test their unique, gruesome abilities on the humans of the Kall. The humans resent them, but have adapted to living in a society irreversibly affected by their interference, believing themselves to be totally at their mercy. Kall was discovered by Chitteruma, the Lord of the Devils, an omnipotent ruler of Hell and the magic user's realm. He found a world in a different dimension from where he came, inhabited by humans, which were not his creations. He took interest in them and used them to his enjoyment, kidnapping them for hundreds of years to do silly things to them, from dancing and singing to eating them alive. Eventually, Chitteruma lost interest in the dimension and its inhabitants and left for hundreds of years. When he visited Kall again, he found a huge mountain of human corpses. The humans were killed by magic users, the devil's first creation in his world, who evolved to the point that they were able to produce magic doors to go to the humans' dimension. Feral and merciless, the creature slaughtered mankind and almost extinguished it. Chitteruma didn't mind and left the human realm once again after seeing the macabre mountain. Several centuries later, the corpses could not decompose underneath the ground due to the toxins inside the sorcerer's smoke, and began to corrode the ground until it became a gigantic black chasm of sludge, similar to oil, which was highly poisonous and capable of killing anything it comes in contact with. Chitteruma was amazed by the beauty of the scene and became extremely infatuated with it, going on to take many pictures of the chasm, making several paintings of it, and even writing songs about it. He then named the whole dimension Kall in honor of the pool of death and hatred. Alright, now that you've had a history lesson in a manga that you may or may not be interested in, and an anime that you may or may never watch, I'm going to tell you why this is significant. See, over the centuries, the countless human spirits residing in the Lake of Refuse became a self-conscious being moved only by the pure hatred towards magic users. I believe that is what's happening in this case. This entity is made up of all the souls of people lost to this war, and I believe that it is expressing itself through the infrastructure, and it's able to control the task-based AIs, and even mechs and robots to an extent, or at least talk to them in a way that makes them want to listen. I think the Iron Mother Kall was following was being talked to, being beckoned. Now, how did this happen? I think that in order to maintain resources for building and rebuilding infrastructure, war machines, etc., the Night Shift AI has not only been recycling destroyed materials, but also mining natural resources. And since everything on the surface is fucked up for the most part, it has been digging down underground further and further to find more. And at some point, it dug down far enough to find this thing, or entity that has been forming in secret. The film Mad God, which is another inspirational work for this game, features the main character delving far beneath the surface, where a war very similar to the one we experience in the game is being waged. Underground, he sees many grotesque and unusual life forms living in the ruins of past civilizations, as well as many different unexplainable horrors. He at one point is kidnapped and then disemboweled by a surgeon who removes a living fetus of some black worm-like creature. I feel like the birth in that movie is being represented by the birth of this entity in the game. Disclaimer, if you're going to watch that movie, it's very disturbing. It's also essentially a silent film, and its story is told non-linearly, so it's a major trip for sure. I would like to showcase one more piece of material that I think ties into my theory very well, and that is the short film anthology Memories. More specifically, the first film, Magnetic Rose. In the film, a deep space salvage freighter, the Corona, responds to a distress signal from a derelict space station orbiting a graveyard of wrecked spacecraft. Two engineers, Heinz Beckner and Miguel Castrella, enter the station discovering an opulent, decaying, European-style interior that appears to be a holographic illusion. They soon learn that the station belonged to Eva Friedel, a legendary opera singer and from the early 21st century who vanished after her fiancé, Carlo Rambaldi, was murdered. As the engineers explore, they are haunted by hallucinations and paranormal encounters. Miguel is seduced by Eva's holographic form, reliving a fantasy where he becomes Carlo. Heinz is confronted with traumatic memories of his daughter's death as Eva takes the form of his deceased wife. He discovers the station is controlled by an AI that uses Eva's memories to trap and seduce intruders, forcing them to assume Carlo's identity. Realizing the truth, Heinz shoots the central computer, causing the illusion to collapse. The Corona is pulled into the station's magnetic field. In desperation, the crew fires a gravity cannon, destroying the station. Heinz is ejected into space, surviving among the skeletons of Eva's past victims, as Eva sings into a phantom audience. The film ends with the real Eva shown dead in her bed, while Miguel, now fully embracing his role as Carlo, courts her in an eternalized memory world. Heinz drifts in the void, alive but uncertain of his fate. The reason I think this is important is not only the concept of the AI becoming corrupted by memories and believing it is the singer, but more so in the way that the AI is able to manipulate the world around it. The ghosts in the film seem very close to the figures that Kall and his crew were seeing around the Iron Mother. The metal lattice type material that is used to create these figures looks very similar to the metal lattice material that is used to recreate the areas that we traverse through in the Forever Winter. Additionally, if you look around at some of the structures, you begin to notice some very interesting inconsistencies. Let's begin with Elephant Mausoleum. As you come in from the pipe's entrance, you can see these little red tendrils coming up the side of the wall. At first, it just seems like some sort of fungal bloom, but now knowing what we know, I believe that this is one of our first signs of the entity feeding. As we move through the level and into some of the patient pods, you can see some of the very baroque and surreal forms that are created in the walls. It's almost as if the night shift AI is trying to turn the machinery into their organic counterparts. The cords from the transformer box pictured here seem to be coming out of what would be a heart, mimicking its job to pass blood through the bloodstream. Then we have the different examples of the metal lattice, all throughout the level. Moving on to Scrapyard Nexus, you can see right away that something isn't right. As you enter to the left, you can see almost a painting or a sculpture of a skull surrounded in filigree, resembling medieval or Victorian era art. There are also these masses of lattice and what appears to be a waxy substance all over the wall in spots, there and everywhere. As we move on, you can see the statues here have not been made or remade properly. Some of the limbs are bones, while others are quite more gruesome. Here you can see the statue with a skull that's coming out of the side of the head, and hands running up either side of the body. There's a hole in her chest cavity that seems like it's being ripped apart by these hands, and here we can see what appears to be spines inside of the hole. I believe this is the entity manipulating the night shift AI, and while not fully taking it over, the entity has it under its influence, causing it to produce and reproduce these disturbing and warped representations of conventional artworks. Next up is Frozen Swamp. Now this is where things really start to get concerning. If you come in through the pipe's entrance, immediately to our left is a giant head. Now, It might look like it's just a fallen decoration piece of a statue or a building somewhere, but where would it have come from? Yeah, there's those smokestacks in the back with the faces on them, but we'll get to those in a sec. This one, though, doesn't look like it was part of a smokestack. It looks fully formed, albeit in sections. Notice also the tendrils that are covered all over it, almost like roots. In fact, that would be the best way to describe them, as it looks like the roots are coming out of the ground in certain areas. It's like it's growing, like a pumpkin. Now let's take a look at those smokestacks. Once you get up close, you can see the same sort of thing is happening here. It looks like veins or roots are coming out of the smokestack and are growing a face out of the side of the stack. Further supporting this idea is the other stack to the left of this one. It has not only one, but two heads that are growing out of it, almost like tumors. It makes no sense for the answer to just be AI. Our last stop on this trip is Stairway Gate. As soon as we enter at the bottom of the stairs, we are treated with panels of Giger-esque artwork. While not much can be drawn from it, it ties into the theme of influence on the Night Shift's AI and looks similar to the things that we saw in Elephant Mausoleum. But as we come around the corner and to the base of the stairs, we are greeted with a very striking sight. It's another head, but this one's fully formed, and it looks just like the ones in Frozen Swamp. At the bottom you can see the metal lattice, but on the sides there's what looks like vines. I think that it's leaching the organic material from its surroundings and combining it with the metal lattice to create some sort of biomechanical organism. Whether this organism is the entity, or if it's just playing God and making things, I don't know. But part of me thinks this is just practice. It's experimenting with different ways of manifesting itself. You can see more of those warped statues here, but there's also this like vine of statue hands connecting the two on the side here, showing even further perversion. What's also interesting is we have the support beam made up of statue hands that's supporting the section of building. It's almost like the entity is holding it up with his hands. As you come out of this other side of the gate, there's immediately another head perched on the same spot, looking the exact same way. You can see a waxy-like substance covering almost every inch of the stairs, and there are warped statues everywhere. The influence of the entity is clearly the strongest here. As we keep going up, you can see branches of statue arms intertwining as they go from building to building. The most interesting piece, though, is the statue at the very top of the stairs. This is the first and only time you will see this statue, which to me is significant. Is this the form of our entity? You can see that the head isn't shaped the same way the other heads are, and a distinct lack of features such as nose and mouth. Seeing this stuff in the game before was always striking, and I thought it gave the game such a gritty, dark atmosphere, but for the most part I thought it was just that, atmosphere. But after watching the video Rilo made about their design philosophy when it comes to character design or level design, you can tell there's an emphasis on utility and things having a purpose. So with that philosophy in mind, it wouldn't make sense for these things to be in the game, as cool as they are, unless they served a purpose. And I think that purpose is a warning. Now that we know about the existence of this entity, there are many questions. What are its goals, its motivations, and what will end up happening? I think the scariest part about all of this currently is not knowing. After all this research and digging, there's absolutely nothing that gives me any insight into its machinations. I don't expect it to be anything good, that's for sure. As far as its effect on gameplay, I have the ability to speculate somewhat. I think that the introduction of this entity will be like flipping the checkerboard. It's going to completely upheave all the current game structure. I don't think that it will change fundamental gameplay mechanics and turn the game into something else, but kind of like the Cataclysm event in WoW, there will be landscape changes, map alterations, and a complete upheaval of faction interplay. In one of the first Q&A sessions, they were asked about there being ways for the allegiances to change in different scenarios that would come from that, and they talked about some of the challenges that incorporating these kinds of mechanics involve. I think that this is their solution to that problem, and I think that they've always had this as their solution. It's the reason why they never fully answered that question. So what would that look like then? I think once this entity reveals itself, it will cause ideological shifts in the factions that will cause them to splinter into sub-factions that may or may not then choose to ally with one another. You'll have some bands that decide to just go completely rogue and become pirates, similar to what Miles was saying in that same Q&A. But then you'll have others that will begin to ally or even worship the entity. It could be argued that they already are. We have the art cultists in the game, whose motivations are entirely unknown, aside from the fact that they hunt rogue AI. As of recording this, there are only 2 rogue units in the game, the Blind Mother and Toothy. We don't ever see them going after them though, and I do find it strange how much the Blind Mother's face looks like the skull sitting outside the main door of Underground Cemetery. They both have the same red shroud over their eyes. I know that the cultist unit is called Rilo Cultist in the files, and that has led a lot of people to think that the entire unit was made as a homage to the YouTuber, but from his own words that doesn't seem to be the case. In the video where he addresses the unit, he says, quote, "Used one of my drawings as a concept for the mask on the game's R Cultist." This would indicate that the entire unit's design wasn't based on his image, also indicating that the unit and subsequently the faction had already been planned. I believe that the cultists are those that worship the mechs and technology as a whole. I feel like they are made up of Eurasian, Euruscan zealots who have taken their fanaticism a little too far, with perhaps some deserters from Europa sprinkled in, as the character model and lines when you recruit them are European. This would explain why the cultists show up in Underground Cemetery, even though that's a map heavily controlled by Eurasia and Euruska. They even have a grabber deployed 24/7, which would mean there's a high level of importance to the area. Why then would they allow cultists to patrol? Well, that's pretty much all I have at this point. Anything else I try to do just feels like inventing headcanon. So I'd love to hear in the comments what you guys think, if you agree or disagree. I want to get a discussion going around this topic as it seems nobody else has really covered it yet. Anyway guys, take care. Peace.